Tonight at Pop-Up University, we have Professor Tarek Zidan from our School of Social Work, who will be talking about Islam in America, a social work perspective. Professor Zidan is a really engaging and thoughtful talker, and looking forward to hearing him tonight, and we'll get started very soon. But first, though, I'd like to remind everyone that Pop-Up University is a co-production of the Center for Excellence in Research and Scholarship at IU South Bend, as well as the Center for Community Engagement. If you have interest in bringing IU expertise to your organization or to your public service or to your community group, please feel free to get a hold of Director Gail McGuire in Community Engagement, or the Director of Series, myself, Josh Wells. Contact information on the screen, or you can find both centers through academics.iusb.edu. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, most especially Indiana Humanities, who provided continuing funding for this programming, as well as IUSB departments and offices such as Academic Affairs, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and a whole host of individual departments running the gamut of our campus. Thank you all very much for your support. Head on with the show. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you tonight Dr. Tarek Zidan, Assistant Professor in the Indiana University School of Social Work in South Bend. His research interests include Arab Americans' attitudes towards persons with developmental disabilities, Muslim Americans' mental health and well-being, and a host of other health and wellness topics. He received his BSW from the Higher Institute of Social Work in Aswan, Egypt, his MSW from the Brown School of Social Work at Washington University in St. Louis, and his PhD in social work from Howard University in Washington, D.C. On our campus, he teaches research methods and practice evaluation in the bachelor's and master's of social work problems. He's also a tremendous fixture in our local and regional community, as well as in the national social work profession. He's a board member of the Muslim Alliance of Indiana. He's a representative for the National Association of Social Work Indiana chapter. He is co-chair of the Disability Issue Track in the Council on Social Work Education, and he is co-convener for research on Muslims at the Society for Social Work Research. Students on our campus are really lucky to have Professor Zidan in the classroom, and very much enjoy his hands-on approach and his just tremendous presence as a researcher and presenter. I think you're going to have a terrific time learning from him tonight. And on that note, I think, Tarek, I will pass the baton to you, sir.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Josh, for this brilliant introduction of me, and thank you. I really appreciate. I don't know if I deserve that or not, but thank you so much again for also inviting me to be a lecturer for the Lab Lang tonight on Pop-Up University. And also I would like to express my thanks to Dr. Gail McGuire for inviting me to be in a presentation today. So you can know from my name, I mean, let me give you my full name. My full name is Tarek Dawi Muhammad Zidan. So you can tell, like, if you see a Muhammad in the name, that means like it's a Muslim name. So I grew up in Egypt by the Nile Valley of King Tut and the Karnak temples, and in the south of Egypt, we call it Upper Egypt. And then I moved to the United States seeking education to be in a social work profession. And then I pursuing my master's and doctoral program until I moved to Indiana University in South Bend, which is I'm lucky to be selected. I'm lucky to have such a wonderful students on my classes and wonderful colleagues and faculty and staff. So the topic today, as Josh mentioned, is Islam in America and a social worker perspective. So the agenda for today is defining the population. So I'm going to go deeper on define what does mean by saying Muslims and Arab Americans and the confusion between Arab Americans and also Muslim American, as well as between the spirituality and religion belief, as well as I'm going to cover the social worker practice with Muslims, as well as the research on Muslims. So the first thing I want to be clear here, because I've seen it in the literature, even research, even in textbooks and articles, there is a lot of confusion about, like, sometimes it's mixed up between religion and spirituality. So I want to define this to be clear. So spirituality actually is more of individualized thinking and also behavior and also activities that can be actually associated with interior life of individual, placing an emphasis on the well-being of the person, mind and body and spirit. As well as spirituality also, as I said, is more individual practices that the person can do spirituality practices in order to get the sense of peace and purposes. But religion is pretty much is more than that. It's more of a set of organized beliefs and practices that usually shared with community or group. So in case of like in a Muslim community, actually is like, you know, these practices that we go to the mosque, we pray 5 times. I'm going to talk more in details about those things. So pretty much the religion is attached to a faith or a religious rules and regulations, as well as practices that may be as a particular system of the faith and worship. And in this case is Islam. And also the Muslims, they believe that in the worship of controlling superpower, which you name the God or Allah in the Muslim, in the Muslim faith. And then when I move to the difference between Arabs and Muslims, I wanna make clear here, not all Muslims are Arabs, and also not all Arabs are Muslim, because I've seen this in the last 22 years living in the United States. There's a lot of blur, a lot of like mixing up, and then many Americans, they don't understand the difference between being Arabs and being Muslims. Actually, Arabs is a culture. If you say I'm an Arab, of course I'm an Arab American, I'm Egyptian American, I'm a Muslim American, so I'm carrying too many hats at the same time. But when you say an Arab, it's more cultural and linguistic term, which people who are speaking Arabic and they are practicing the Arab culture or Arabian culture. So, but the most important piece here, that the majority of Arabs actually are not Muslim. That can be a surprise for you all. The majority of Arabs actually are Christian, which is 60%. You can say like a country like Lebanon, for instance, like almost like 50% or even 4% are Christian. So that's the difference. So there is a difference between Arabs and Muslim. Islam is a religion. So not a race or ethnicity, because there is some people think that, oh, you are Muslim, you're Islam. That Islam is a religion, but Arab being, this is a national identity, and being like like race, like African American, like Asian American is like race and ethnicity means based on culture and linguistic, but Islam is based on religion. So I wanted to make it clear because I've seen it all over. And many places, even in the literature, are the mix it up between Arabs and Muslims. Arab and Arab Americans, okay? So Arabs means, when we say the word or a term Arabs, that means like these people who came to America from the Arab League. If you can see here on the map, the one on the top with the green color, these are the Arab area where we call it the 22 countries of Arab leagues, which is like continuous of Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and all these is 22 Arab countries who are speaking Arabic and sharing culture of Arab culture. If you see here the map at the bottom here, where the Arab American live, the Arab American live in America where mostly they concentrated on the Northeast, like maybe like New York, New Jersey area, Ohio, as well as also in the Midwest, like in Detroit. The majority of Arab Americans actually living in Dearborn, Detroit, from a different background, different Arab countries, as well as in the West Coast, in California, as well as in Texas and Florida. So these are where the Arab American live in the United States. And if you look at the picture, the one on the left, you can see how diverse Arab Americans are. You can see some women wearing a hijab. You see some women without a hijab and with a full makeup. You will see like the people are from all different backgrounds. So the Arab Americans are very diverse by nature, and also they coming from a different cultures, different countries, like as I said, 22 countries, and each country has culture and subcultures within the main culture. So it's very diverse in nature as an Arab Americans. When we talk about Islam, Islam actually spread all over the globe. So it's not only in the Middle East or even Saudi Arabia where the Islam started, but it's actually spread it all over. You can see here in this map is about 1.5 billion Muslims around the globe, and there is in North America and Latin and Central America and Europe and Russia and China, Indonesia, for instance, it has like the largest Muslim population in the globe is in Indonesia and subcontinent, subcontinent India. So these are the map. Even China has a large number of Muslims as well. So Muslim everywhere in Africa, Sub-Sahara. So this is a map showing you where the Muslims globally. When I talk about like giving some data about how many Muslims are living in the United States, Muslim Americans. You know, the World Population Review of 2020, that there is an estimate of 1.9 billion Muslim living globally. But for America, for the United States, the Pew Research Center in 2017 estimates about 3.5 million Americans living in the United States. Means like, this is an estimate of being like American Muslims made it up of 1.1% of the total US population. However, there is an older data that's showing that the American Muslims in the United States about an estimate about 7 million Muslims. And you can wonder what the difference, I mean, there is a difference here between the numbers. Even this is a recent data, and the other one is 2011, which is 7 million Muslims. The reason is behind, there is no accurate data on Muslim Americans because of all what happened, you know, the Islamophobia, increasing Islamophobia, xenophobia, the suspicions of Muslims, they mistrust the authorities, the law enforcement, the census, and they intended to hide their identity, especially post 9/11. This is very much is post 9/11 that contribute to the Americans are trying to hide their identity. But this is something that the Muslim Americans suffer since 9/11. But in the meantime, the 9/11, however, is a tragedy that everyone affected, and even me personally, I've been affected, and this is a tragedy by all means. But also the 9/11 have given the only positive thing that I've seen out of 9/11, that it highlights the group as a Muslim group. What does mean is highlight the group? Everyone trying to figure out who the Muslim are. And then we started seeing a lot of department in different universities teaching like Islamic studies. They want to explore who the Muslims are, where the Muslim are, and what the Muslim doing. So which is, I feel like after 9/11 is like a double sword. Like There is a stigmatization. There is also Islamophobia, xenophobia, all these things, backlash against Muslim. But in the meantime, it increased the public opinion about where the Muslim, who they are Muslim are, and where they live and how they practice Islam. Muslim in America is considering are the fast growing population following Christianity through both birth and immigration. And also many Muslims who come to the America arrive in voluntary immigration, or they come here voluntary, like in someone like myself, I came here seeking education. I wasn't like refugees or an asylum or I've been forced to come to the United States from Egypt, but I came here seeking education. But some other people are pretty much the large number as refugees, like Afghanis, now recent Afghani arrival to the United States, Iraqis and Bosnians and other groups. The most common origins of American Muslims are coming from the Middle East. As I said, like pretty much is from the 22 Arab countries, and also from Indian subcontinent, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and some other nations, and also African Americans who converted to Islam. So there is many African American converted to Islam, especially when I talk about the Muslim wave, the waiver or the waves of Muslims, that the Muslims, how Muslim came to the United States. The history of Muslims in the United States, there is 4 different waves of immigration. So the first one is like 1500 to 1810, which is like, many coming to America, and some slaves were Muslim, the one they brought from Africa to the United States. They were, some of them, they were Muslims. In 1880s and 1920s, the Arabs from Syria, Lebanon, mostly Christians, some Muslims, and these are the people who arrived to either like to New York, are pretty much, most of them are Punjabis, Indonesians, and then some of them are actually coming to California as well. So to California and also New York. The third wave of immigration that in 1921 to 1965, which immigration law blocked nearly all Muslims immigration due to the quota system, because we know that they have used the quota system to minimize the number of the people that coming. And of course, the Americans that at the time they wanted to control the immigration system and immigration like gates to come, the new coming to America or newcomers to America. And then when I mentioned that the Muslims are the African American converted to Islam, the nation of Islam that grew up very heavily in 1930s, especially in Detroit area, and also in 1921, 1965, that many Palestinians, Muslim moved to the United States because of the conflict between Palestine and Israel at that time. The last wave of immigration, which is 1965 until now, which pretty much is a lot of refugees, reunification, family reunification, education, and economic and religious opportunity, and pretty much is coming from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Arab countries, and as well as Iran. When we look here at this map, pretty much is, it tells you like the majority of the Muslim Americans in the United States are actually Black. As Black Americans are the large number, was 28%. And then it's following by Asian, Chinese, Japanese Americans, and then white 19%, and then 14% only Arabs. So Arabs only consisted of only 14% of all Muslims living in America, which is, this is, that is like a fact, which is like many people think all Arabs are Muslims and all Muslims as Arabs, which is not true, as you can see from the table in the front of you. So when I talk about Islam, what is Islam? Many people think about what is Islam? Why we talk too much about Islam and we don't know about it that much because we hear a lot in the news, we watch it in the TV, a lot of things, that especially terrible things happen under the name of jihadist and Islam as a terrorist religion and things like that. Actually, Islam is a religion of peace. Like when you come to the group or even a meeting or anyone, when you come to the people, you say Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum means like I come with peace. And then when you leave people, you also say Assalamu alaikum, mean like I'm leaving you with peace as well. So the word Islam translates as to submit. And as a Muslim, the word Muslim means like the one who submits. Islam is an Arabic word, so that Islam, because Islam came to Muhammad in Saudi Arabia, came in Arabic language, not any other language. So Islam means the word Islam, an Arabic word which means surrender, submission, commitment, and peace. So every time I hear that in the news or even in the TV, that talking about, terrorists and the Muslim are terrorists, or even like you hear that word that Islam is kind of like a violent religion. I feel like this is a misrepresentation of Muslims, and someone does not understand Islam or even the meaning of being the word Islam or being a Muslim. Islam again is a religion of peace and prosperity, and I think there are a lot of misconception, a lot of confusions happen, not only in the United States but also globally as well. There is a how do you become a Muslim? I mean, for anyone to become a Muslim, there is a 5 pillars of Islam. We call it a mandatory for all Muslims that you have to do. The first one is Shahada. Shahada means like you have to recite, like the recitation of confession and accepting Allah the only God and Muhammad is the last prophet. Mean like in Arabic we say, Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. What does mean? This means like you're giving up, you're giving a confession statement saying, I'm accepting Allah as the only God, and also I'm accepting Muhammad as the prophet and as the last prophet. But still, Islam believe in all other prophets as well, like Jesus and Moses, and we have texts in the Quran about other prophets as well. So Islam is not denying the other prophet, but Islam saying, or Muslim saying, that the Muhammad is the last prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the second pillar is called Salat. Salat means the prayer. So Muslims, they have to pray 5 times daily. It can be happen at home, it can be at the mosque, so 5 times a day. And then we have the number 3, zakah. Zakah means is like donation and giving, the act of giving alms, which is pretty much giving food and also some of your money, and roughly about 2.5 of your income annually. So all Muslims have to give to the poor and needy, for at least like 2.5 of income for a year for the poor and needy. And also zakah, also we have to give the zakah as well during the months of Ramadan as well, which is, we're gonna talk about it. It's called Saum. Saum, I mean, is fasting the months of Ramadan, almost about 30 days every year, from the sunrise every day for 30 days, from the sunrise to the sundown. And then you cannot drink even water. You cannot even smoke cigarette. So that's mean like you completely shut down your stomach, as well as any ill thinking or even bad words it's coming from your mouth. So it's not only for food, you prevent food from coming to your stomach, but also you have to, you have to do a good deeds. You need to cite the Quran, read the Quran. Also, you cannot talk badly about anybody or anyone. So you have to be actually fasting from everything that really bad can happen, or even something you say is bad. The last one is, we call it the Hajj, which is it's an optional. Means optional. This is when you have to travel to Mecca, the holy land and holy shrine in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca, whereas you have to visit it at least once in your life. But this is an optional mean like pilgrimage to Mecca, the Holy Land of Islam. And that is, you can do it only if physically and financially able. Someone can ask, all these 5 pillars is a mandatory for everyone? I say is a mandatory for everyone, but there is exceptions here. Exceptions if you are in traveling, if you are a child, if you are disabled, if you have like some sickness, if you are a woman, and especially some of these like the salah, if you have your period as a woman for salah and Som and Hajj, you know, some of these, there is exceptions, but I don't have to go into details on these. But as I said, that the mandatory, these are the 5 pillars, an overview for Islamic practices. What about the Muslim denominations? Like how many Muslims are there? I am a Muslim Sunni. Okay, I grew up in Egypt. There is a Sunni actually is the largest branch of Islam. So we estimated about 85 to 90% of Muslims are Sunni. So and these are pretty much the main branch of Islam of denomination. The second the second one, it's called Shia. Shia is the second largest branch of Islam, who believes is only Khalifa Ali as a legitimate successor of Muhammad. So Sunni believe is Muhammad, you know, that receives the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Gabriel. And then Muhammad has 4 Khalifas or guided leaders that they are successor for Muhammad is Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. But the Shia, on the other side, they don't believe on that. They believe that Ali is the Khalifa of Muhammad and rejected the first 3 other calibers, means like the other ones is that they are not successor for Muhammad. So this is the difference between the main Sunni and the main Shia. So Sunni and Shia are both Muslim groups, but they have a slight differences, especially looking at like the Muhammad as a prophet and the successor, as I said, that who's the successor for Muhammad. And then some stories that they talk about, like Ali is supposed, Shia thinking sometimes and like Ali should be the prophet, not Muhammad himself. So there is a lot of going back and forth, but it's still both of them are considered Muslim groups. The third denomination here in the United States, I mean, we have the Nation of Islam, primarily African Americans, that group that founded in the 1930s in Detroit, Michigan, and also they are Sunni section, so which is believing like follows the Sunni group. And there is also some other groups that other than Sunni and Shia in the United States and also African sub-Saharan countries and Arab countries, but I don't want to go into details on those because this is going to take more time. So the main denominations for Muslims is Sunni and Shia. So the large majority of Muslims are Sunni, who are believer and follower of Muhammad and the Caliphs, and then the Shia, that the second largest group of Islam. Sharia law. This is a very important for the slide. When you see the Sharia law, all Muslims, they have to follow the Sharia law. And you see like this is driven from the holy book of the Quran, okay? So, and also the life of the Prophet Muhammad and his followers. And we, in this case, we call it hadith. So many countries and many Muslim countries using a Sharia law, and some others, they don't use the Sharia law. Like for instance, like Saudi Arabia using a Sharia law pretty much in all the different sectors of law, like marriage, criminal law, and other laws. And in a country like in Egypt, for instance, we use only Sharia law in the marriage section of law, but we use a secular French law and Western law of France in the different section of the law. But the Sharia law, it should be all driven, as I said, from the holy book of the Quran and the life of the Prophet Muhammad and his followers. And this is kind of like they set the rules and regulations and how the basis for the laws that be enacted and how you can practice. There is a term called Ummah. You can hear this about the Ummah of Islam. Ummah of Islam means the unifying Ummah of Islam, means a sense of community. This is an Arabic word that we use all Muslims, and we say Muslim brothers and sisters. So Muslim brother and sister, all brothers and sisters mean, like when I call a woman, a Muslim woman, I call her sister. When a Muslim woman calling me, she calls me a brother. So brother and sister means like this is will give the Muslim the sense of community, as we all brothers and sisters in Islam. Religion also is an umbrella under all which all other identities are organized, including race, language, ethnicity, and gender. Islam does not differentiate between all people based on race and ethnicity and language and gender. Islam are actually believe in equality and equity between all religion, language, ethnicity, and gender. As well as Islamic values, they focus on the quality of the characteristic of the person, being as a good Muslim and being as a bad Muslim. That's the only thing, is the quality of characteristic of your personality. You know, like in Quran, we and Hadith, we have a text saying, you know, إن الله ينظر إلى قلوبكم. يعني, what does mean is like God will, or Allah will look at your heart and see if you are a good person or you are a bad person. You know, so you have to, in addition to practice the 5 pillars of Islam, you have to have a quality of characteristic of a person to be a good Muslim. You know, you cannot just go to the mosque and pray 5 times or fasting Ramadan and do all the 5 pillars, and then you are an evil person inside of you, or you're doing an act of evil. That is something is the Quran and Islam in general rejected that idea of being like to be an evil person, but you have to be, you know, Islam values a quality of characteristic that be an example or role model for being a good Muslim. Islamic values and Sharia law. All Muslim maintain some sort of modesty principles. You know, not just only to cover your head as a woman, but also you have to maintain the form of modesty principles in your daily life. Also, as I said, the Muslim members of the Ummah, they call themselves brothers and sisters. Most of Muslims have a sense of things being unclean, such as dogs. Like when the dog come and lick you up or lick your body or interact with you, many Muslims, they think that the dog is unclean animals, so you're not supposed to have the dog let clean or lick your body, if you can say. Many Muslims as well, even the least observant, give up the various food, like we call it haram food, means like any pork, alcohol, dead animal, sick animal, this is forbidden. Like we cannot eat them. Only halal food that the being butchered by the halal way, mean that in a Muslim way. And also the last one is no sexual contact before marriage. So all these are pretty much the summary of the Islamic values, means like all these should be, you know, the core values in Sharia law of Muslim community. The core Islamic principle as well, all Muslims respect the Quran and every word of Allah himself. The Quran must be in Arabic. I know that some Muslims, they don't read the Quran in Arabic, they read it in English. Like I have I have 3 kids. My kids are born in the United States, so they didn't speak Arabic very well. So what happened, they read the Quran using an English alphabet, which is, I feel like it's something wrong in their part. They have to learn how to read in Arabic, but as well as like, it's more of respect to the Quran, is to, you have to read it in Arabic, not in English alphabet. The core principle of Islam also, there is 2 types. There is one called Tawheed, what one must believe. Like you have to confess that you believe in God Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you believe in Muhammad, and also you follow all the hadiths that what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, came up with, all that texts that came by the followers of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the Sharia law is what must one must follow if one believes, which is the Sharia law and the Tawheed. These are the most important two principles of Islam to become really a Muslim. Everything also exists because of Allah will, and we call it in Arabic, inshallah. And some people, sometimes they use the word inshallah or God will in a wrong way. Like they do all kind of bad stuff and then they say, oh, God will. Somebody drive against the road and then had a car accident by his mistake because he doesn't pay attention to the traffic very well, or he's in a cell phone texting while he's driving and then killed somebody or had a car accident. He say, oh, this is God will, or Allah, inshallah, this is Mashiach Allah. Actually, this is wrong. Mashiach Allah, God will, means like, you have to work hard and you have to follow all the rules and regulations. And then if something happened that to you, after you doing all your part really well and perfect, that will be a God will. So God will also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have all the things that settled up for you even before you were born, as well as when you coming to life. But also you have the freedom to choose how you practice and how you take decisions of your own. So there is a large belief that in Muslims they misuse the word God will, that they do all kind of such terrible things and say God will. Islam believes in empowerment for women, and you can see here, this is in this slide they have like the Islam is a religion of peace, not a religion of being judgmental. This is a typical like a hijab look, and you can see these are different types of hijab: burqa, niqab, hijab, and kimar. These are different types of headscarf that were being worn in a different location in different part of the globe, like in Iran, in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, in Asia. These are different types of hijab that the Muslim women they wearing, but also the hijab is considered a protective factor rather than oppressive. I know many American, when they see me walking in the mall with my wife wearing a hijab, they think that she been abused by an oppressive husband. He's a Muslim, and I'm a very abusive. I mandated her to wear the hijab, but actually she's the one, she picked it up. She's the one, she chose to be wearing a hijab. She's the one, she feel like she's empowered to wear the hijab. She wanted to tell everyone she's a Muslim. She living in America, in the land of the freedom, the free speech, the free religion. So she wanted to be empowered, and also she take it in a pride for being a Muslim. And I think all the Muslim women, they wear the hijab, they take it for pride, and also they take it as a source of sense of empowerment. And self-expression means like they wanted to express themselves even in a public places, that express themselves that we are Muslims. I'm a Muslim, I wear hijab, and I'm here, I'm proud to be an American Muslim. So many, as I said, this is one of those things that I get a lot of questions. Me and my wife, we get a lot of questions from the American public when we go to the public places about why she wears the hijab. Did they told her, did your husband force you to wear the hijab? Did your husband is abusive? And we got too many stories about these things living in the United States. Muslims and discrimination. Yeah, of course, especially after 9/11. I mean, when I first came to America before 9/11, Was everyone excited to know me? I got too many invitations to visit people's homes from Americans. And then, when they know I'm from Egypt, they don't ask about Islam. They don't even, they are very excited to meet me. But after 9/11, it's like the story has changed to me a lot, like 180 degree, because I've been like, I've been called names. I mean, I have a good and bad experience, actually. Good experience that a lot of people supported me, calling me, saying that, well, understand, we are with you. Don't worry about what's going on in the media and other things. But other people that they also, they call me names and offensive names, like if I'm a terrorist, or I have a friend of mine called me at the same day of 9/11 saying, do not come to campus because you might be hurt by some groups of students that walking, they want to harm any or hurt any Muslims that in campus and things like that. I told them, no, you know what? No, I'm gonna go on campus today, and I'm gonna be, express even myself being Muslim, but also I'm rejecting the idea of being what Muslim are terrorists. And also we condemned all the tragedy of 9/11, because I think this is something that really has negative impact all Muslims. And as I said, Islam is not the religion of violence. Islam is a religion of peace. And what ISIS do to the United States is the same like KKK do to African Americans. The same thing. These are terrorist organizations that using religion as umbrella to cover their actual the criminal act they do. These are criminals, not a Muslims, I can say. I mean, Islam is actually cannot be the religion of violence. Islam is a religion of peace. When we talk about social work practice with Muslim, okay, so social work practice with Muslim, I mean, when we practice social work with Muslim families, and we go through the different processes like assessment, prevention, services, and therapy. The first thing we have to look at the first generation, second generation culture differences between parents and children of Muslim families. There is a complete different generations. For instance, like I'm a second generation, I'm a first generation, means like I grew up in Egypt and I came to the United States seeking graduate school. But my kids were born in the United States, so they are completely different. They have a completely different worldview of Islam, and even culture-wise, So there is a lot of differences here between the first generation, second generation Muslim when it comes to Islam and Islamic belief, as well as the culture. The second one is the different notion of gender role. Gender role between men and women in Islam is a complete different than here how we look at the women or men, in a way of like westernized culture, mainstream culture. Lack of knowledge on Muslim culture and Sharia law among social workers. I mean, this is something that we have to educate and provide more training for social workers to work with Muslim families to understand what Muslim culture as well as what the Sharia law, so they can better assist, intervene, and provide services, even therapy to the Muslim families. Lack of cultural competency in working with Muslim clients. Actually, I've seen it as a social worker. I've seen it in many social workers. They have when it comes to Muslims, they have no idea or zero cultural competency in working with these groups. The importance also of understanding clients' worldview from effective social work. So we have to understand where the Muslim come from, and this is what lead us to what we call it culture humility. Culture humility means like you need to build your skills in working with diverse groups, particularly Muslim. You need to, active listening. You have the skill of active listening, reflection, reserving judgment, enter the client worldview. So means like culture humility means like you have to take a step back and take you being bias free from all different kind of biases against this family. And also you have to take your values, your religion belief, and all the things that you have, take it aside and just to walk into the client worldview and understand this person, the Muslim family, how they practice Islam, what the role of men and women in the family. Do not be judgmental if the woman wearing a hijab or don't wear a hijab, and all these things. So you have to be careful when you work with a Muslim family, and especially with the rules and regulation, especially with the practices, and when you go and do a home visit as well, or when you do an assessment. There is a model here we call the culturegram. To use an assessment is called culturegram that used with culturally diverse families. America became more diverse in the last 20 years and anticipated to be more diverse in the upcoming 10 years as well. So this is a model that's been developed in, I believe, by a professor at Fordham University School of Social Work, Eileen Congress, and that has been used to do an assessment with diverse background groups like Asian American, Latinos, elderly, young kids, and all different people from a different background. So this is the culturegram actually is more in depth than the ecogram or even ecomap, because they give more in depth of looking at more to the Muslim families. If we use this with Muslim families, it is more getting more comprehensive assessment that has 10 different principles and assessment areas that we assess in order to intervene and help the Muslim families. The first one is reason for locating into the United States, the legal status with immigration, green card, your asylum, your refugees, time in the community, how many years you lived in the United States, language spoken at home and the community, health beliefs, impact of trauma and crisis, contact with cultural and religious beliefs, oppressed and discrimination, biases, value about education and work, values about family structure, power. So these are, so this culturegram assessment has 10 different sections that have a, asking and grasp this each one in order to have a fully understand of the family coming from a diverse background, especially if you're using this assessment to work with Muslim. It's going to help you a lot with regard to cultural competency. There is also in Britain, there is also a talk a lot about like Islamic social work model, which is similar to the social work practice model, which is working clearly about doing an assessment by awakening, data collection, thinking, intervention plan, action plan, evaluation plan, and pervasive process. So this is pretty much some of the models that have been suggested in the literature, especially in Britain and some part of the Middle East, like United Arab Emirates. I know when I was in Egypt, there was a professor, his name Ibrahim Ragab. He heavily published in international journals about social work, international social work journals about Islamization of social work practices. Means like he wanted to, especially in a Muslim country, he wanted that this kind of model and concept, that Islamization of social work practice, to be implemented in the Muslim countries and Arab countries, meaning like all the practices that the social worker do in the Middle East and the Muslim country, it should be implemented based on Islam rules and regulations, Sharia law, and all these things. So it is divided away from being in a Western life style or traditional Western social work practices. When I talk about research, as I teach research and conduct research on Muslim, I mean, my research focus was a lot about mental health and well-being of Muslim Americans, discrimination, depression, stigma toward person with disability among Arab American and Muslim American. But these are the things that I believe that needed most for Muslim and research on Muslims among social workers. The Muslim mental health issues like discrimination, depression, stigma toward seeking mental health services, gender role specific research in family relationship and practices, child welfare and practices with Muslims, bullying in schools, domestic violence, Islam and disability, patient entering nursing home, and palliative care, which is like, this is part of the Muslim, maybe they don't agree about the idea of sending a loved one to a nursing home. Issues and challenges. There is a lot of challenges when you conduct the research on Muslims. Muslims are always suspicious of any data collection. Even in my research, when I collect data from Muslims or even from Arab Americans, I get the question always like, do you work for FBI? Do you work for a police? Do you work for the federal government? Because they think that the US government is spying on Muslims. And this is a big issue as an obstacle that prevented that researcher from getting the accurate data from Muslims in the United States. Also, the US Census Bureau does not collect the data on religion affiliation and its demographic surveys. So there is no way you can know how many Muslims are living there. The lack of interfaith research, like, like Christian, Muslims, and Jews, they should have like some sort of research that can be, using an interfaith religion and research. Alignment with Islam and social work alignment with Islam and social work practice. The social work philosophy mainly is focusing on social justice, equality, and empowerment. And this is what Islam teaches us, and also rules and regulation, even the Sharia law. So like social justice, man, everyone is equal, everyone treated equally regardless race, ethnicity, even sexual orientation. But I mean, the equality and social justice, as well as empowering women, the elderly, the disabled, the person with disability, the mentally ill, the young children. So all these are the values that exist in Islam. So sharing the same alignment with the social work perspective. What are the principles of social work? The following ethical principles that came from the Code of Ethics, the NASW, National Association of Social Work Code of Ethics, that pretty much these are the main values, which is service, social justice, dignity, and worth of the person, importance of human relation, integrity, and competency. That is pretty much Islam that encourage, and also all the Muslim Islamic principles that actually have the same things, that all these things, that the ethical standard, that principles that of the NASW. So we have a shared principles between Islam and social work in many ways. When we come to do a clinical implication for practice working with Muslim family, that actually there is some positive that comes from like how we can explore the Muslim families and learning about culture competency, cultural humility. This will highlight the Muslim Americans community in the United States and how this increased the understanding of Muslim culture. And I want to differentiate between there is an Arab culture and there is a Muslim culture. So Arab culture coming from the Arab countries, and this is a very distinct, unique culture, but also there's a Muslim culture. So you have to be careful about, like, when I say about the Muslim culture. So this is because many Muslims in America, they use the Arab culture as things they do in life instead of Muslim culture. Increase the social work practitioners' knowledge base by providing empirical data on Muslim Americans in different topics. So we need more of qualitative research conducted on a Muslim population. Enhance all cultural competency and skills of mental health and professional therapists and practitioners and counselor and working with Muslim client, understanding the strengths and spirituality, beliefs, and networking among Muslims and culture support with all Muslim families in the social work system. I'm going to close up here my presentation by showing you some of the books are in social work and Islam. Yeah, the first book published, it was in 2005 in Britain. It's called Islam and Social Work. And then the other one in 2017, but was an updated book of the first one. So these are the same. The one on the left side, Islam and Social Work, Debating Values, Transforming Practice. This is the first book. The second updated edition, Islam and Social Work, Culturally Sensitive Practice and Overseas Work. So these are the two books, but the same, actually the same book, but it's a good source for if you want to learn more about Islam and social work. There are some other books that can be actually talking about Islam and also interdisciplinary psychology, sociology, social work. These are samples of these books that you can, and also there is articles on Islam and social work. You can follow Dr. Altaf Hussein. You can Google him, that he published extensively about Islam and social work. Anisa Nader, David Hodge, Ibrahim Ragab, and others. So you pretty much you can search on Google or database about Islam and social work. Now I open the session to the Q&A. So if you have any question, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zidan. I will ask a quick question.
Sure.
While we give people maybe a little bit of time. One of the things I was thinking right there towards the end, when you were talking about, I guess, increasing cultural sensitivity within the discipline of social work, was whether, and I realize this might be difficult because it's hard to even know in the general population what the percentage of Muslims are. But if you have any sense of what percentage of social workers might identify as Muslims, and I'm just wondering, maybe if you would guess whether it was similar to the number of Muslims in the general population, and maybe what the impact would be of, intentionally recruiting more people who identify as Muslim into the field of social work.
Sure, that's a good question. Actually, there is no exact number or data on how many Muslim social workers in the United States, but I know there is a group like on Facebook and also on WhatsApp. It's called Muslim Social Worker Group, which is the majority of these groups are located either in Arizona, Texas, Detroit, and a majority of the social workers who are Muslims are African Americans, women, and male are sound like is a very rarely or barely number of Muslim social workers are in the United States. But I can say there is many large, I don't have exact data about like how many, but there is many mental health therapists who are Muslims, especially if coming from Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, and and also Middle East, and especially second generation Muslim. Second generation, large number of mental health therapists are Muslims. But when I talked about like cultural sensitivity and cultural competency, this is a skill that need to provide training for non-Muslim social workers.
Right.
Especially in the area of child welfare, like when you place a Muslim child into a non-Muslim family, and that child might eat pork or when growing up as non-Muslim, or lived in a foster home where the Jews family or non-Muslim family, so this is something we need to provide more training for social workers on cultural competency in working with Muslim families.
Yes, that's a great point. Absolutely. There's a question I'm going to maybe combine these, or maybe that's a two-parter in my head. I had also wondered about this, if there's any data on the typical types of services that Muslims tend to seek, and you know, whether there's I guess you know, what are the primary reasons, I suppose, that Muslims would seek social services for with social workers, and also as a second part to that, I think, is there any stigma attached to mental illness in the Muslim community? You know, maybe comparative to the general population.
Mhm. Okay, so I think the first part about if there is any data on what kind of service that Muslims seek in the United States, I don't think there is a data on what kind of services that Muslim seeking with regard to human services. But I can say that the Muslim population is like any diverse group living in the United States as immigrants, and majority of them coming as refugees. So they might need a lot of services like housing assistance, finding a job training, language barriers, immigration, help, like seeking like a lawyer on immigration to help them. A lot of services like any other group, like Latinos and other groups. But I think there is an urgent need to do more of the assessment. And as I said, like the culturegram, the assessment that the culturegram that doesn't go into details on quantitative assessment, like we need to do as a researcher, as a Muslim researcher, we need to do more of like doing an assessment of what the Muslims are need across the United States, and also based on with their culture as well. Like there is Muslim population is very diverse in nature, coming from all different kind of different background, and also culture wise, and also languages as well. We have Chinese Muslims, Latinos Muslims, Native American Muslims. We have like Russians Muslims, and all kind of things. So it's like, and also Muslim converted from different religion. And also we have some Muslims who are the second generation, who are secular, like atheists, like the second generation. They don't want to be Muslims. They want to be like a secular, like, or even convert to Christianity or Judaism. I mean, what the second question? I'm sorry, the second question you're asking.
The mental health issues. How does that
The stigma?
resonate? Yeah.
Yeah, the stigma toward mental health actually, because Muslim community, they believe in Ummah, means like everything should be solved through the family and extended family. So it's not, you have to understand in Islam, even in Arab culture as well, they think about like the family is everything and is very important, especially extended family. So the family will solve the issues within their family members. So there is also a stigma of seeking mental health. Like if you have a depression, or you have a PTSD, or any kind of mental disorder, and you want to talk to someone, or you want to seek like going to a psychologist or therapist, or even a psychiatrist, that might be shameful in the Muslim community, but based on the culture, because the culture does not agree about those things, and they think this is something, a stigma, and people stigmatize if they seek help, or even going and even disclose that they have any mental health. So they try to solve these issues within the family. And also people sometimes go to the mosque and meet with the imam, the head of the mosque, and they want to asking someone to read the Quran, or reading the hadith, and listening to the Quran maybe cure them from having a bad bloods, or like bad genes running in a family. All this is stigma. The same like stigma toward mental health, is also stigma toward disability as well, that embedded in some of the culture. But this is a culture related things, not the religion related thing, because Islam encourages us to seek help and treatment if needed. But
Mhm.
the culture-wise that prevent that, because the stigma toward the person with disability, even seeking and getting help, especially mental health. This is a big issue in Islam. And I'm doing research right now. I'm collecting data, quantitative and qualitative project, two different projects about talking about like, the perception toward mental health, toward disability among Muslim population. But there is a lot of research have been conducted on that area of how Muslim perceive the seeking treatment and mental health services and stigma toward that.
I appreciate you making that delineation too, as you have done throughout the presentation, but that it's maybe a broader cultural issue within the Arab culture, not necessarily just specific to Muslims in terms of reflections on mental health. Two more questions here. We'll do this one at the top here. Any suggestions for how to prepare students who are going out to do field work internships or clinical work in the field, who do identify as Muslim, to help maybe the supervising group or organization or individual who will be working with them as they're doing an internship, to help that relationship perhaps to avoid any kind of bias or any kind of misunderstandings in that particular situation.
Sure. I think for all Muslims, particularly like social work students, professors, community services providers, we have the obligation to teach the community as well as the people we work with by also representing the Islam in the best way, like as a role model, like as like how you behave in your school as a student, how you behave with your colleagues and classmates, how you behave with your with your supervisors, the respect to your supervisor in the field, as well as you teach. Is a teachable moment for if I'm a student and going into internship. This is actually a wonderful opportunity to teach other people about Islam and Muslims by also providing them all the resources. I could like bring them like to the mosque, volunteering in the event to the mosque, and especially in the area, the Islamic Michiana Islamic Center that is really have a good reputation among all people from different faiths in the area. When I first came here, I was surprised that everybody knows about ISM, Islamic Center, and was a really positive impact on everyone who are Muslim who are living in that area. So I think if you volunteer, if you take some of your colleagues or supervise to the mosque, if you are pretty much, you show them even by modeling, like to be how you are good Muslim person, and also teaching them about the rules and regulation, why I wear the hijab if I'm Muslim woman going in a field, why if I don't wear the hijab. By the way, not all Muslims are women who are wearing the hijab. It's a volunteer decision from anyone, any Muslim woman that can wear the hijab. It's not like, you have to wear the hijab. You can see people from all different Turkey, from different countries who are really true Muslims, and even they don't wear the hijab as well. So it's kind of like even Egypt as well.
Yeah, I have a good friend who is Muslim and is quite devout and has never worn a hijab. She's from Pakistan. So one last question, and this maybe is a good segue too, because I think you educated us a lot on just the basic tenets and foundations of Islam today. So this one, last question, is a little bit more about the first part of the presentation, and that's where, if you could maybe describe where the disagreement about the caliphs came from, and this difference in is it a difference in interpretation from the Quran in terms of the Sunnis and the Shia, and where that division sort of happened or why?
Yeah, the division happened actually is like after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, because we have the followers and then the Caliphs. The Caliphs is like the guided leaders, that the one they will take the step further after the Prophet has been deceased. So that is when it come like a disagreement between the Muslims who's gonna be the follower of Muhammad, successor of Muhammad as a prophet, taking the stage as like to be fighting for Islam, and then sort of all the other things as they used to the Prophet did. So some of the disagreement come from, there is a different stories. Like one story came like, there is like some group of Muslim believes that the message, instead of coming to Ali from Gabriel, it came by mistake to Muhammad. So it should come to, so Ali should be the prophet, not Muhammad. And this is, Ali is a cousin actually of Muhammad himself. So it's kind of like, this is a story. The other story that come is like, this particular group wanted to be using Ali as a successor only, and then don't believe on the other successors or other caliphs. It's only, they believe in Ali very much. And then also the Khilafah, Khilafah, that and the Shia, they believe in the Khilafah. You see like many groups, and within each group, there is some Khalifa. It's like Khalifa of Muslimin is mean like it's same like a leader of the Muslims in the Shia country. And some other countries are Shia, like Iran, for instance, is a complete Shia country. Iraq has a large Shia community. Egypt is, I don't think they have any or even little number of Shia, but the majority are Sunni Muslims, and we have 10% of Christianity. So I think the difference is, it came, I think, after the death of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is where the disagreement, which group should be leading the Islam and the Muslims in the future after Muhammad deceased.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Wells to close us out. Thank you again so much. This was great.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Tarek. Thank you, Stephanie, for doing for all your terrific fielding of the questions. Just want to also give some recognition to all the folks who are thanking you, Professor Zidan, in the chat room and in the questions. You have a number of messages of thanks for a great talk, and I echo that. It was a really enjoyable evening. I learned a lot. I know our audience did too. I get this. I remember how to share my own screen here. There we go. Just to let everybody know, that next month we'll be having Professor Deb Marr from biology giving her talk, Seeing the Forest for the Trees, Exploring Old Growth Forests in Northern Indiana. She'll be talking about studies of stands of trees and forests that are up to half a millennia old, and large surveys of tens of thousands of trees in Northern Indiana, and helping us better understand the history and present of our forests here today. So looking forward to that. And please, if you want to see more of Pop-Up University, please feel free to visit the webpage at iusb.edu. The web address is there, or simply Google IUSB pop-up. There you can find our YouTube videos, including Professor Zidan's tomorrow. You can watch for upcoming live streams, get links to the talks, and of course you can donate to support if you're so inclined. And again, just Google IUSB pop-up, very easy. So again, thank you, Professor Zidan. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you to everybody visiting here tonight, and we hope to see you again next month.
Thank you, Josh. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.